Hi, my name is Kathryn Clark, and we're talking about spirituality. Well, no talk on spirituality would be complete if we didn't discuss mystical storms. Now, a mystical storm, according to the way we see it, is a period of time where the lights go off. And it's the kind of thing where you're walking and talking and everything's fine and you're normal. And suddenly, if you were a swimmer, you'd say, it's like you're swimming along, someone grabs your foot and pulls you underwater. And you're not swimming anymore. You're struggling. You don't know which way's up. How did you get pulled under? How do I get to the surface? What's real? What's not? What's oxygen? What's water? I mean, it really is that kind of experience of I don't know if vertigo is the right word, but you don't know which way's up. Okay, so let's say there's three types of mystical storms. Now, how will you know this is happening to you? It's very interesting. Often you notice it most when you're aiming towards something good and suddenly you get pelted with four obstacles, or you get very confused, or somebody says something to you and everything that once made sense doesn't make sense anymore. Confusion. You know the enemy of light is present when you have total confusion. Now, confusion can be a good thing in the sense that it's your indicator that you have to do something to figure things out. So you're asking yourself, why am I confused? What's confusing about this? Well, a person said one thing to me, which led me to believe everything was fine. But then they did this other thing, which was clearly hostile or appeared to be or hurt me. And I'm confused because the person's, what they're saying and what they're doing don't match. Well, that would be confusing for anyone. And it certainly is the mark of someone who's paying attention to experience confusion around a demeanor and actions that don't match in other people. And those are, things you have to pay attention to, particularly in relationships. And one of the things we'll talk about in relationships is how to know if your relationship is worthy of a permanent commitment, how to marry the right person. There's some very clear ways to discern that, and that's not something you decide. And a decision is just something you decide. I'll do this. I'll go left or I'll go right. Discernment is a different word. And in Catholic spirituality, we think of it as a decision made over time with prayer. So for those bigger decisions in your life, you don't just decide, you discern. You weigh it all up, you think about it. God, help me to see. Holy Spirit, enlighten me. And then you arrive at a conclusion after a period of time. Something shouldn't be decided quickly. Some things must be. Should I eat this last donut or desist? That can be a spontaneous decision because the ramifications aren't huge, hopefully. But should I take this job in a different city? That's a bigger thing, and that requires a little time. Okay, so mystical storms. What do you think of when you think of a storm? Well, I was in Florida for Hurricane Helene, and it was enough of a hurricane to sell me on avoiding hurricanes. You think of high winds, fear, uncertainty, danger. Do I need to make a different decision? What might that be? What are my 5 options? All this is kind of happening with increased heart rate. So let's talk about 3 mystical storms, but I've just described to you the experience of it. Okay, number 1 is a mystical storm of temptation. Have you ever experienced temptation that was so significant that you wondered about your ability to decide how to handle it and felt actual apprehension that the temptation could just carry you to an action or a statement that wasn't the best thing? I think we've all been there, and I think we've all made good decisions about it, and we've all made bad decisions and given in a sense, to the temptation and chose to not do the right thing or to let it win. Any married couple understands that temptation, really, because you're in a difficult conversation, let's call it a fight, and suddenly, there's something pops into your head that you could say back because you're not listening. You're just thinking of what you're going to say when they stop talking. And that's not really good, but there it is at times. And then you're tempted to say this thing, but then you don't. And later, you think, oh, thank God I didn't go there. Thank God I didn't say that thing. You're really grateful. I wish we could just mark those moments and look at them every day, visit them, because those are moments of triumph, really, where a mystical storm didn't get the better of you. And, sometimes the only goal is to not make a thing worse, in life, if you think about it. Relationships-wise speaking, first do no harm works for relationships. But the temptations, it can be temptation to anger, tempted against somebody. The biggest issue, I think, at certain times is we assume we know what someone else is thinking. And we then become all worked up about what someone else might be thinking about us or about a certain set of circumstances or whatever it is. And when you take it and you calm yourself down and you say, all right, I'm going to reflect on this. I'm going to really think, do I know? Is it a bit arrogant to assume I always know what someone else is thinking? And the answer is, of course, yes. And the obvious solution would be to check. Are you thinking this? And, let the other person tell you, and listen, and don't accuse. The temptation, the mystical storm of temptation feels like an experience where there is a storm going on in your mind, and you feel like you just can't help yourself, but your goal is to control yourself, to exert self-control. Because here's the thing about storms. They pass. And a couple right decisions in a storm means safety for a relationship, for a plan, for a job. Oh my word. Has anyone ever made a fool of themselves at work? Better question would be, has anyone ever not? Is there anyone who has never made a fool of themselves at work? And that can be a product of a temptation. And they'd say, you let yourself down. Everyone else just thinks you're a goof, but you let yourself down, and everyone's looking at you like, yeah, you gave that one to yourself. Not the best choice. And hopefully you're with people who forgive you for that, or who can overlook it and give you a pass when it's needed. So when you're really angry, feeling angry about someone, there's a question you can ask is, what can I do about this? What should I do about this? Do I need to make a fast decision? Or is this something that needs a little air, a little space to make a right decision? And a fast decision is different, can be different than a right decision. There's a mystical storm of doubts. Have you ever been in a situation where you really didn't know which way was up, and everything you thought was good didn't seem so good now? You wonder about, like, your job. Am I crazy? Why did I take this job? Why am I staying in this job? There must be a better job for me. This job is ruining my life. And again, that's not a decision moment. That's a discernment question. I need to figure this out over time with prayer, because you don't just dump a job. People who have a dream or a life's work, they say there's two kinds of people: the kind of people who persevere and the kind of people who quit. And I think that's true. If you've made a decision over time with prayer and you've embarked upon a course, that is not something you abandon lightly. you can stay in it and discern and work with it gently, like puzzle pieces, positioning it. Should I be abandoning this or should I be making it work differently? That's a question. See, these decisions can be hard. And I feel that there's so much choice now that in the past we just didn't have this level of choices. I feel sorry for younger people because you could get into a choice paralysis. Like there's so many choices. I don't know. I don't want to commit to any one choice. But at some point you've got to jump in and make a commitment. That's why this discernment thing is so crucial, because you're not like saying, oh, God, come from on high and just give me the answer. Although really you are asking for that. But the way you're going to arrive at that is through sorting and sifting in your mind, looking at the best things, and then being courageous enough to take a jump and try a course and put everything into it and see how it goes. But the doubts that can come about your faith. Like people would say, is God even real? Lord have mercy, don't worry about that. Just keep going. I mean, you're not going to stop what you're doing to worry about whether or not God is real, are you? Because where's that going to take you? If you're in a mystical storm, you're like Dorothy in the tornado and there's stuff flying at you. You're just blinking hard and trying not to panic. And you shouldn't panic because, as we say, the storms come and then they go. And the one thing about doubts is this. Go back to your original decision when you're feeling doubts. I decided upon this because I believed this, and this. I made a good decision. I made the best decision I could at the time. It seemed logical. Therefore, I have to conclude that my commitment to that decision was the right course, and a temporary mystical storm of doubt cannot knock you off that course. You have to give it time. But revisit your original process of decision if you're feeling doubts. Like some people serving God, there's always going to be doubts. I mean, that's going to be part of it. I mean, what I'm saying is, I think every day we manage the duality of doubt and conviction. And it's a spectrum. You're in a different place between doubt and conviction every single day. I mean, if you want to live your life at the 99th percentile of conviction, I just don't know how you do that. I don't think it's out there for you. I think it's going to oscillate between conviction and doubt. And if you can stay somewhere in that center zone, I think you're safe enough. And that's the problem with mystical storms. You lose the center zone. You go way into the other thing where things feel very frightening. But you just have to, it's like that GPS thing where, it's telling you to go into a dark alley and you're like, I don't think that's the right decision for me. And you take a turn and you just wait for the rerouting component to catch up with you. It's the same about that, a mystical storm of doubt. Now, the scariest and saddest and most worrying mystical storm would be the mystical storm of separation from God. And it's the kind of thing where maybe you're not a praying person, maybe you're not a religious person, maybe you're anti, which is a relationship, remember it's anger, or maybe you're devout, but you don't feel God's presence. You just can't experience it. You feel separated somehow from God. The awareness of God is obscured. And it's almost like you have to believe you're in this bubble with a helmet on. And then if you take the helmet off, God's everywhere again. But while you're in that state, this is where trust comes in. And all of those things come in. Faith comes in. And staying in place comes in. I made a good decision. I'm going to live my decision despite how I'm feeling. Remember that the passions are neither good nor bad. That is catechism teaching. So your strong feelings aren't good and they're not bad. They're feelings. They're yours. You have to look at them, but you don't let them decide all of your life decisions. And when you're in mystical storms, your feelings get very out of control, very unruly. No, not out of control. You're in control. You're choosing. But the feelings get very hard to manage. And that's where you have to talk to yourself. You have to say, self, these are just feelings. I don't have to act on them. I can live through them and wait till they settle. Self-control is a beautiful thing. And you're always so grateful to yourself when you do control yourself. And I would say to you, if you have controlled yourself and exercised a good choice, be really congratulatory to yourself. I mean, you're the one talking to yourself in your mind. You're living with yourself, so you might as well be friendly. I mean, I would say, okay, thank God I did that right. Oh, thank God for my self-control. Thank God I made the right choice. Well done to me for making the right choice. Give it to yourself. And you're also marking a spot there. The more you play that up in your mind, the more you drown out the opportunities for not using self-control. Build up those moments where you use self-control, celebrate them, and then what you're actually creating is an edifice of greater self-control in your mind and your heart. But separation from God's always a lie, comes from the enemy. You're never going to be separated from God unless you choose to be permanently. And that's probably not what you're going to do, really, because God is love. And whether you're mad or let down or disappointed, we ultimately all choose love. We ultimately all, when we see that complete infinite love is available to us, we pretty much all collapse into it. Why wouldn't you? What's the option? So no separations. Don't be tricked into thinking that God's not with you, that he doesn't just adore you and have good hope for you. And he's looking at you thinking about your potential, where he's hoping, you and he might arrive, and then he'll take care of you, and you'll look out at people who need help, and maybe you'll decide to lend a hand to somebody who needs it. Maybe you'll decide to be kind to somebody in traffic. Maybe you'll decide to be honest, as we said. That's God's hope in your potential. God's never going to be separate from you if you're in a mystical storm where you say, I don't know where God is. Someone said once, I just think God has left me. He's just left. I don't feel him. Well, I don't know. Again, first of all, never rely on your feelings. I mean, they come and go. But also, thinking rationally, like God, not like you in a mystical storm, why would God stay with you all these years and then suddenly just belt off? Like just leaving. I'm just leaving this. It's irrational. And mystical storms are characterized by irrational thoughts and words and actions. You got to keep yourself in order, because you don't want to this is where we make mistakes. Again, I'm repeating myself, but what's the thing about mystical storms where you're suddenly black, you're suddenly anxious, you're suddenly unsure, you suddenly don't know what you were thinking getting married? Oh my God, why did I have 3 children? I can't handle 3 children. I'm a mess. That's the mystical storm stuff. And yourself, it passes. We all know from experience that what appears hopeless one day is full of light tomorrow. And we make decisions in mystical storms. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be more mature than that. And we're supposed to be riding out those storms, retaining our peace. And that fake it till you make it thing really works in there, because you're inside, you're like, okay, this is terrifying. I don't know what's happening. Outside, you're just still doing the same line dance. You just hold your position. You stay in place. Keep doing the next right thing, and you'll be out of that storm in no time. But they're real, and we just want to acknowledge that. Thank you. God bless you, and bye-bye.